The stars were quiet, cold and distant, stretching across the dark sea of space like endless silver needles. Among them drifted a single human ship, small and battered, yet proud in its own way. Its name was the Erebus. To any outsider it looked fragile, its hull scratched and scarred, its engines humming faintly as if struggling against time itself. Many alien fleets had scanned it, laughed at it, and dismissed it as a relic of a long-forgotten era. A weak ship, they had said. A species that cannot survive is still clinging to the past. But they did not know the truth. They did not know that the Erebus was not just a ship. It was a guardian of hope, a vessel that had slumbered for 1,000 years, carrying within it the essence of humanity itself. Its crew, carefully preserved in cryochambers, had slept through centuries. Entire generations had passed outside. Empires had risen and fallen. But the humans within had waited patiently, quietly, like a storm biding its time. Inside the silent corridors of the Erebus, the cryochambers glowed softly, casting a gentle blue light over the walls. Machines whispered, gears clicked, and long, dormant systems hummed back to life as if stretching after a deep slumber. One by one, lights flickered awake. Panels blinked, and the ship seemed to breathe for the first time in a millennium. Then, it happened. A pulse, low and steady, traveled through the hull, awakening the ship's core systems. The computers blinked, recalibrating, while the engines stirred with a newfound energy. The humans inside began to wake, their eyes opening to a world that had changed beyond imagination. Captain Elena Voss was the first to awaken. She blinked against the soft light, her body stiff from 1,000 years of suspended time. For a moment she felt disoriented, lost in a reality she had never known. But then clarity returned. She felt purpose. She felt life. Elena, report. The ship's AI intoned softly, its voice calm, precise, and strangely reassuring. Elena's lips curved into a small smile. We are awake, she said, her voice steady but carrying the weight of centuries. Around her, other crew members began to stir. Their faces were pale but determined. Their minds were sharp, their bodies slowly reacclimating. Generations had dreamed of this moment, had prepared for it, and now it was here. Outside, sensors picked up movement. A distant fleet approached, its shape sleek, alien, and terrifyingly advanced. They had no idea what waited for them. They had scanned the Erebus centuries ago and laughed, marking it as weak, fragile, irrelevant. They saw rust, old technology, a ship too small to matter. Yet now that same ship stirred with life, ancient yet alive, patient yet ready. Elena walked to the bridge, her hands brushing along the cold metal walls. Every step echoed with purpose. She looked at her crew, faces full of fear, hope, and determination. They think we are weak, she said quietly, almost to herself. They do not know that patience, endurance, and courage are not measured in decades, but in centuries. We are not weak. We are humanity, and humanity does not surrender. The aliens closed in, unaware of the force they had mocked. Weapons systems activated, shields shimmered, and the Erebus seemed to expand, larger than it should be. Alive with an energy that had slept too long to be ignored. The ship was more than metal and circuits, it was the will of 1,000 years, a testament to survival, ingenuity, and the relentless spirit of humanity. And as the first signals of the approaching fleet filled the void, Elena's eyes hardened. She felt a surge of emotion. Fear, yes, but also pride and determination. For 1,000 years humanity had waited, and now, the universe would learn that patience could be more deadly than any weapon, and that a species underestimated is a species underestimated at its own peril. The Erebus had awakened, and with it, humanity's long silence would end. The Erebus floated through the darkness, its engines whispering life into the void. Captain Elena Voss stood on the bridge, her eyes fixed on the viewports. Stars streaked past as distant fleets began to appear on the sensors. Alien ships, sleek and monstrous, moved with confidence, their formations precise and menacing. They believed the Erebus was weak, an old human ship that time had forgotten. Their laughter had echoed across space, mocking a species they thought long past its prime. But Elena knew better. Every system on the ship had been built for endurance, for strategy, for survival. Humanity had waited, learned, and planned. 1,000 years of preparation were now awakening with them. The humans on board, though newly awake, were ready. Their minds were sharp, honed by the legacy of their ancestors, their reflexes guided by centuries of instinct encoded in their training and their genes. "Captain?" Lieutenant Rin spoke, his voice steady but tinged with awe. "They're closing in fast. Weapon systems active. They think we won't resist." Elena turned to him, her eyes burning with quiet fire. "Let them think it. The moment they believe we are weak, they will make mistakes, and we will be ready." She paused, letting her words sink in. "They do not understand patience, Rin. They do not understand what it means to endure 1,000 years." The sensors beeped urgently. The lead alien ship, massive and menacing, moved closer, its plasma cannons already charging. The aliens still laughed, unaware that the Erebus had been built not for speed or appearance, but for cunning, for survival, for the kind of strategy that could only come from centuries of thought. Elena's hand hovered over the command console. She could feel the ship's systems responding to her, almost as if the Erebus itself recognized the challenge. The shields flickered with an inner light. Sensors scanned faster and the weapon systems hummed, synchronized with her heartbeat. Humanity's ship was more than metal. It was a living testament to endurance, awakening to face a galaxy that had long written them off. A transmission signal arrived from the alien fleet. Their voice, distorted and harsh, crackled over the bridge. "Human ship," it said. "You are weak. Surrender now and we may spare your species." Elena smiled faintly, a mix of calm and fury. She did not respond. Instead, she allowed the silence to speak. The aliens did not realize that silence was dangerous, that in it lay centuries of waiting, planning, and knowing that their arrogance was their weakness. The first move came from the aliens. Plasma beams sliced through space toward the Erebus, bright and deadly. The human ship rocked slightly, but its shields held firm, shimmering like a veil of light. The crew on the bridge tightened their grips, their eyes wide but determined. They were awake now, alive in a universe that had forgotten them, and they would not falter. Elena's voice rang through the bridge, calm but commanding. "All systems engage full defense protocols. Target lead ship. Remember, our strength is patience, our advantage is strategy. They do not know us, but they will learn." The Erebus moved with unexpected speed, its ancient engines pushing the vessel gracefully through space. The ship anticipated the alien maneuvers, dodging plasma bursts, returning fire with precision. Each strike from the humans seemed to surprise the aliens, who began to pause, reassess, and falter. Their laughter faded into confusion. For the first time, the aliens realized that the ship they had mocked was no relic. It was alive, awake, and deadly. Every human aboard was a spark of that legacy, their courage magnified by centuries of preparation. The Erebus had waited, and now it was time to remind the galaxy that humanity was never weak. Elena clenched her fists, her heart pounding with a mix of fear and pride. She looked at her crew, their faces pale but shining with determination. "This is only the beginning," she said softly. "They thought we were asleep. They thought we were weak. Let's show them the truth." And with that, the Erebus surged forward, a 1,000-year-old storm finally awake, ready to face the galaxy that had dared to laugh at it. The stars shivered under the approaching storm. Alien ships, massive and terrifying, had formed a ring around the Erebus, their weapons gleaming with deadly intent. They believed the human ship would crumble, that its ancient hull and outdated technology were no match for their firepower. They had laughed at humanity, mocked their patience, and dismissed their resilience. But that laughter was fading now, replaced by confusion and then fear. Captain Elena Voss stood on the bridge, her gaze steady. Around her, the crew worked with quiet precision, every movement fluid and practiced. Though they had awoken from 1,000 years of slumber, their training was as sharp as ever. They moved together like parts of a single machine, their instincts honed by the lessons of the past, their courage drawn from the legacy of generations long gone. "Shields at full strength," Elena commanded. "Engage evasive maneuvers. Remember what they don't know. We are not weak. We endure. We survive." The first alien shots cut through the void, blinding streaks of plasma aimed to tear the Erebus apart. The shield. Dias shimmered, absorbing the strikes, bending light in dazzling arcs. The human crew held their ground, calculating, anticipating, reacting with a precision that astonished even themselves. The Erebus moved like a living thing, its hull twisting, engines flaring, dodging strikes with an elegance that belied its size. Lieutenant Rin's hands danced over the weapon controls. "Captain, their formation is breaking." "They didn't expect us to move like this." Elena nodded. "Good, keep them off balance. Every moment they hesitate is a moment we gain. Every hesitation reminds them they underestimated us." The aliens' confidence faltered as the Erebus struck back. Pulse cannons fired, lasers slicing through the darkness, striking alien ships with pinpoint accuracy. One by one, smaller vessels spun out of control, their engines exploding in bright showers of debris. The larger dreadnoughts tried to regroup, but the humans' strategy was relentless, adaptive, and smart. From the bridge, Elena could see the fear beginning to spread. The aliens were fast, but they had never faced patience like this. They had never faced a ship that had slept for 1,000 years, a ship whose crew carried the knowledge, strategy, and endurance of countless generations. "The lead dreadnought is maneuvering to flank us," Rin warned. "They're trying to force a surrender." Elena's eyes narrowed. "Let them try. They will fail. Humanity does not surrender." She pressed a series of commands and the Erebus shifted its position, dodging the flanking maneuver, then firing a coordinated salvo that struck the dreadnought's engines. Sparks erupted across its hull. The massive ship groaned, twisted and spun away, disabled. A ripple of awe swept through the alien ranks. Whispers traveled from ship to ship. It's anticipating us. How can a single ship move like this? They are not weak." Elena's heart pounded, not with fear but with pride. She looked at her crew, their faces pale but determined. "Remember this," she said. "They laughed at us. They mocked our weakness. But they will never mock humanity again. We survive, we endure, we fight." The Erebus continued to strike with deadly precision, its ancient systems proving that age was not weakness but wisdom. The alien fleet was forced to retreat, their attacks scattered and ineffective. Each ship that fell or faltered was a reminder that patience, strategy, and courage could outweigh brute force. For the humans, it was more than victory. It was a message. Humanity had returned not as prey, not as a weak species, but as a force that could outthink, outlast, and outfight anyone who dared to underestimate it. Elena's voice echoed through the bridge, soft but powerful. "We have slept for 1,000 years, but we have never been gone. Let the galaxy remember this day. Let them remember the strength of humanity." Outside, the stars shone like witnesses to the battle, and the Erebus, battered but unbowed, moved forward. The war was far from over, but the first victory belonged to humanity. The universe had begun to take notice, and for the first time in 1,000 years, humans were no longer invisible. They were awake. They were alive, and they would never again be underestimated. The battlefield stretched across the void, glittering with debris and flickering lights. Alien ships had begun to regroup, their arrogance shaken. They had expected an easy victory, a human relic to destroy without effort. But the Erebus had proven them wrong. Its shields shimmered, engines thrummed with power, and weapons fired with deadly precision. Every movement of the ship seemed almost alive, anticipating their attacks, turning fear into chaos among the alien ranks. Captain Elena Voss stood on the bridge, calm but resolute. Her eyes scanned the sensor displays, tracking the enemy's every maneuver. Around her, the crew moved like a single organism, their actions synchronized and precise. They were humans awakened from 1,000-year sleep, carrying the legacy of survival, intelligence, and courage encoded deep within them. "Lieutenant Rin," Elena said, her voice firm, "focus on the lead dreadnought. It's the largest ship. If we disable it, the others will falter." Rin's fingers flew over the controls, a mixture of excitement and determination in his eyes. "Aye, Captain." Locking target. The dreadnought advanced, its massive hull glinting under distant starlight, its weapons charged, eager to crush the human ship that dared defy it. But the Erebus moved with grace, dodging blasts with maneuvers that seemed impossible for its size. Pulse cannons fired, and the first shot tore through the dreadnought's shield, leaving a burning scar across its hull. The aliens hesitated. Their formation wavered as smaller ships tried to support the lead vessel. But the humans had studied patience, endurance, and strategy for centuries. They struck with precision, hitting weak points that no alien could have predicted. One by one, the alien vessels faltered under attacks they could neither understand nor counter. Elena's voice carried across the bridge, steady and commanding. "This is it. Focus fire. Show them what humanity is made of. The Erebus unleashed a coordinated volley. Beams of light streaked across the void, hitting the dreadnought's engines. Explosions rippled through its hull, and with a violent shudder it spun out of control. The smaller ships nearby faltered, unsure of what to do next. Fear spread among the alien ranks. For the first time, they realized that this human ship was more than a relic. It was a storm waiting to strike, built not for show, but for survival and dominance. Elena felt a surge of pride. She glanced at her crew, their eyes wide but fierce. They were awake, alive, and unstoppable. "We have waited 1,000 years for this moment," she said quietly, almost to herself. "Now they will learn patience is stronger than arrogance." The alien fleet tried to regroup, but confusion ruled. Their attacks became disorganized, their formations broken. Each mistake was exploited by the humans. The Erebus struck again, disabling 2 more warships in quick succession. Sparks and fire scattered across the battlefield like shooting stars, marking humanity's precise and calculated revenge. Whispers ran through the remaining alien ships. How can they anticipate everything?" one pilot murmured. "They are centuries ahead of us." Elena's lips curved into a faint, determined smile. "They mocked our weakness," she said. "They laughed at our patience. But patience is power. Endurance is strength. And humanity is unstoppable." The Erebus surged forward, not just surviving but taking control of the battlefield. Its hull gleamed, battered but unbroken, like a living testament to centuries of human determination. The aliens realized that underestimating humanity had been their gravest mistake. The fear was real now, a cold shiver that ran through their fleet. Elena looked out at the stars, her heart steady. Humanity had awoken not just to survive but to reclaim its place among the stars. The universe would remember this day. The galaxy would know that a species underestimated for 1,000 years could strike with the force of every generation that came before it. And in that moment, the Erebus moved like a spear through the alien ranks, a symbol of humanity's patience, endurance, and unyielding spirit. The tide of battle had turned. The humans were no longer weak. They were unstoppable. The battlefield was a sea of fire and silence. Alien ships floated broken and smoking, their formations shattered. The Erebus drifted gracefully among them, scarred but unbroken. Captain Elena Voss stood on the bridge, her hands resting lightly on the controls, her eyes scanning the wreckage. Every explosion, every beam fired, every evasive maneuver told a story, not just of a battle, but of humanity itself. "This is incredible," Lieutenant Rin said, his voice quiet, almost reverent. They thought we were weak, and now look at them." Elena's gaze softened. "Weak," she whispered. "We were never weak. We were sleeping, waiting, learning, preparing. Every generation that came before us dreamed of this moment. Every life we preserved in cryosleep carries the hope of humanity. That is our strength." Around her, the crew moved with quiet pride, repairing systems, tending to minor damages, and monitoring the remnants of the alien fleet. They had awoken from a 1,000-year slumber to find themselves alone in a galaxy that had forgotten them. And yet, through the chaos of battle, they had reminded the universe what it meant to be human. On the viewports, the stars stretched endlessly, but they no longer felt empty. They shone as witnesses to humanity's endurance, reflecting the courage, intelligence, and patience that had been preserved over a millennium. Elena felt a strange mixture of exhaustion and exhilaration. The weight of history pressed on her shoulders, but it also lifted her. Humanity had returned, not as a weak and forgotten species, but as a force that could shape the galaxy. Rin leaned closer to the captain. "Do you think they will come back?" he asked, his voice low. Elena shook her head slowly. "They might, some will. But the fear they feel now, it will change how they see us. They will never underestimate humanity again. We carry the legacy of 1,000 years, and they will know it." The crew watched as the remaining alien ships retreated, their engines flaring as they fled. Even as they disappeared into the distance, Elena could feel the weight of the message humanity had sent. Patience is strength. Endurance is power. And no species, no matter how advanced, should ever mock those who endure. In the quiet aftermath, the Erebus hummed softly, as if aware of the history it had just made. Elena walked the corridors, passing the cryo chambers where generations of humans had slept, preserved for this very moment. She touched one of the frozen pods, feeling a connection that went beyond words. "We honor them," she said softly. "Their dreams are alive. Their hope has awakened." The crew gathered in the main hall, exhausted but proud. Faces glowed with relief and smiles were timid but genuine. Humanity had survived, not through brute strength alone, but through patience, intelligence, and the unyielding spirit that had carried them across centuries. Elena looked out of the observation deck, her eyes tracing the distant stars. "We have slept for 1,000 years," she said aloud, "but our spirit has never rested. We are the sum of every dream, every life, every hope preserved. Today we remind the galaxy that humanity endures. Today we reclaim our place among the stars." The Erebus moved forward, its engines leaving a trail of light that stretched like a promise across the void. It was not just a ship, it was a symbol. A symbol that even when a species is dismissed, underestimated, or forgotten, it can rise again. Stronger, wiser, and ready to face anything. The humans aboard felt it. The weight of history, the pride of their ancestors, and the hope of the future all pulsed through them like a single heartbeat. And as the Erebus sailed on, the galaxy began to understand something it had never truly known. Humanity was not weak. Humanity was patient, enduring, and unstoppable. And in that quiet, shining moment, humanity's legacy had been written across the stars, not in words, but in courage, survival, and the unbreakable spirit that no force could ever destroy. The stars seemed to hold their breath. The Erebus floated through the darkness, its hull scarred but alive, carrying the weight of centuries and the hopes of 1,000 generations. Captain Elena Voss stood on the bridge, her hands steady on the controls, but her heart beat faster than ever. The battle was not yet over. Somewhere in the void, the remnants of the alien fleet were regrouping, testing the limits of human endurance. "Captain," Lieutenant Rinn said, his voice tense, "we're detecting a large signal cluster. They're forming something big. It looks like a combined fleet, more powerful than before." Elena's eyes narrowed. She had expected this. The galaxy might fear humans, but some would still challenge them. Some would still test what a species that slept for 1,000 years could do. "Prepare the crew," she said, her voice calm but resolute. "We fight not for glory but for survival, and humanity never gives up." Inside the cryochambers, the records of generations past seemed to whisper. Every human who had built the Erebus, every mind that had designed its engines, every hand that had forged its hull, they all seemed present in the minds of the awake crew. Their courage was not just their own, it was the strength of those who had come before. The alien fleet emerged from the shadows, vast and imposing. Their weapons glinted like shards of broken stars, and their engines roared with raw power. The humans aboard the Erebus held their breath. This was the final challenge, the ultimate test. If they failed, humanity's last ship could fall and the dream of centuries would end in silence. Elena's voice rang out, calm and firm. "All systems, maximum output. Shields, weapons, engines, give me everything. Let them see what patience, endurance, and courage can do. Humanity does not falter. Humanity does not surrender." The first shots were fired, and the Erebus responded instantly. Its shields flared, absorbing the alien onslaught, while pulse cannons fired back with deadly precision. Each maneuver was calculated, each strike purposeful. The ship moved like a living thing, a 1,000-year-old predator awakened from a deep slumber, ready to reclaim its territory. The alien fleet faltered under the humans' relentless strategy. They had expected an easy victory, but the humans were unpredictable, patient, and fierce. The Erebus struck the lead ships, targeting weak points, avoiding heavy fire, and using every trick hidden in its ancient design. Explosions lit up the darkness, marking the defeat of arrogance by patience. Elena felt a swell of pride as she watched her crew work. They were alive, alert, and unbroken. They had awoken to a universe that had dismissed them, and now they were shaping it with their courage. "They thought we were weak," she whispered. "They thought a ship asleep for 1,000 years could not fight. But they are wrong. We are stronger than they ever imagined." The battle raged, fierce and unrelenting, but humanity held the upper hand. Alien ships that had once mocked them now fled, their formations shattered, their morale broken. The Erebus, though battered and scarred, continued forward, unstoppable. In a quiet moment, Elena looked at the viewports, tracing the stars that had once seemed empty and distant. Now they felt alive, witnesses to humanity's awakening. She thought of the generations preserved in the ship, the hopes of 1,000 years, the dreams of a species that refused to die. Victory is not just survival, she said softly. It is honor, it is legacy, it is the proof that humanity endures. The alien fleet, broken and scattered, finally retreated into the void. Silence returned, but it was no longer empty. It was full of triumph, of the weight of centuries and of the quiet knowledge that humanity had reclaimed its place in the stars. Elena exhaled, relief and pride washing over her. Her crew smiled, tired but elated. The Erebus had survived, not by strength alone, but by patience, strategy, and an indomitable human spirit. The galaxy had witnessed it. Humanity had awakened, and the universe would never forget. The void was silent now, but it was not empty. The stars reflected the scars of battle, and the Erebus glided through space, battered but unbroken. Captain Elena Voss stood on the bridge, her eyes scanning the horizon. The alien fleet was gone, retreating into the darkness, but their fear lingered like a shadow. They had learned what humans had always known. Patience and endurance are more powerful than arrogance and brute strength. The crew moved quietly around the bridge. Exhausted yet alive, faces pale but shining with pride. They had awoken from a 1,000-year sleep into a universe that had dismissed them, and now they had carved their mark across the stars. Elena felt a surge of emotion, a mixture of relief, pride, and sorrow for the lives lost in centuries past. Every person aboard the Erebus carried the hopes of humanity's ancestors, and they had not failed them. Lieutenant Wren approached her, his voice quiet. "Captain, the galaxy will remember this. They will never underestimate humans again." Elena nodded. "Yes, Wren, but this is only the beginning. Humanity has awoken, and now we must show the universe who we are. Not through fear, but through strength, courage, and perseverance." Outside the viewports, distant stars seemed to shimmer brighter, as if acknowledging the awakening of a species that had been written off as weak. The humans aboard the Erebus were no longer just survivors. They were witnesses to their own legacy, living proof that time, patience, and determination could shape the fate of a galaxy. In the quiet of the bridge, Elena thought of the generations preserved in the cryo chambers. They had slept for centuries, trusting that one day humanity would rise again. Now that trust had been honored. The Erebus was not just a ship. It was a symbol of hope, endurance, and the unbreakable spirit of humanity. A soft chime echoed across the bridge, the communication systems picking up signals from nearby star systems. Some were cautious, others fearful, and some were curious. The galaxy had received the message. Humanity was awake, and it would not be ignored. Elena's voice broke the silence, firm yet filled with emotion. "We are here, we endure, and we will rise, not just to survive, but to protect, to explore, and to inspire. Humanity has returned. The galaxy will know our name." The crew gathered, exhausted but united. They looked at the stars, imagining the countless civilizations out there, some already watching, some still unaware. The Erebus had survived countless challenges, and now it would sail forward, carrying the legacy of 1,000 years of patience, dreams, and hope. "Let them come," Elena said softly, more to herself than anyone else. "Let them see. Humanity is not weak. Humanity is unstoppable." As the Erebus accelerated, leaving a trail of light across the darkness, the stars seemed to welcome it. Each crew member felt it, a connection to the past, the present, and the future. They were part of something larger than themselves, part of a story that would be told across generations. A story of a species that had slept, endured, and then awakened stronger than any force that had doubted them. And somewhere, across the distant galaxies, whispers began to spread. Stories of the human ship that had slept for 1,000 years. Stories of its courage, strategy, and indomitable spirit. Aliens who had once laughed now spoke in awe, recognizing the truth. Humanity was patient, enduring, and unstoppable. Elena looked once more at the stars, her heart swelling with pride. The Erebus moved forward, a beacon of hope and strength. Humanity had returned, not as prey, not as a weak species, but as a force to be reckoned with. The universe had learned its first lesson: never underestimate humanity. And in that moment, the galaxy held its breath, witnessing the awakening of a species that had slept for 1,000 years and had finally come home.